Minutes past 9.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
The best ideas are free with Ben Young from Bwaggy.com.
Indeed, getting us inspired or thinking about the world in different ways, perhaps, or looking at current issues in different ways with Ben Young. G'day there, Ben.
Good morning.
Good morning. And there's been a couple of stories locally that have been grabbing the headlines.
So let's talk Whitcoulls and books.
Yeah.
Especially because you were on TV3 on Friday.
I may or may not have been. As a, I think, what was I...
talking about your romantic birthday gesture.
I think it was Glenn Williams' internet bargain hunter.
I think it's the same Glenn Williams.
Yes, So there was a story last week about Whitcoulls and Borders are going into well, it's not receivership, it's administration. Yeah, and of course, I think everyone's heard about that. But people are pointing the blame in all kinds of places for the demise of bookstores like this.
So the obvious one is, and this is probably something that you and I will jump to real quick, is ebooks. Buying stuff online. It's also importing your own books.
Yep.
Because that's both stuff we both do.
Yeah.
But then if you look at the book sales, apparently physical book sales in New Zealand were up 1.2%. So it's not like there's been a colossal decline in the number of books. And I'm sure during a recession there has been some discounting. And I'm not saying ebooks aren't the next growth market, because they are. And these guys are missing out on opportunities by not pushing in there. But if book sales are up 1.2%, what's going on?
Yeah.
And also, if you look at Paper Plus, I believe Paper Plus are growing. Like, they're testing new concept stores.
Yeah.
A whole lot of journalists went down to Masterton last year to check out the new concept stores. So there's clearly still money in the book market.
But you see, is Whitcoulls a bookstore? Borders actually is, but Whitcoulls, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking to one of my English friends about last night. And she was saying, yeah, but Ben, Whitcoulls does DVDs, stationery, toys, board games, or magazines as well. Like, there's a lot of stuff they do. And maybe that's a little bit of what they're suffering from. Like, trying to push you into all these other areas when you are looking for books. Or maybe they should be a stationery store rather than a bookstore.
What about the fact that that Whitcoulls and still Borders totally drag their heels on online shopping? You know, the Whitcoulls store's only been around 2-3 years, or it feels like it's only that long. Yeah,
I don't even know if you can purchase. I've tried to purchase
online. But
I've definitely given up. And Borders, I don't think you can at all, can you?
No. In fact, in searching for this book that I was looking for last week that I ended up getting from Amazon, I went to Borders and there was actually a banner saying online shopping coming soon. I was thinking, well, Amazon's been around over 10 years ago. We've got Fish Pond, we've got Mighty Ape and all these others.
That's the thing. Amazon was one of the first, it was, I would say, the biggest e-commerce store and one of the first on since the start of the internet. It's not like books had a slow start in selling online.
No, that's right. Now, isn't there an expectation, though, when you do shop online, that you should be able to get that product cheaper than what you would in the physical store?
Definitely. I think there's an element of that. But I've talked to some people in the book industry over the last few years about, the margins behind books. And making money on books is actually reasonably tough these days. And there are a few things. Shipping the books. So I've got a few friends that are authors who have had their books printed in the US and printed in China and then shipped down. And shipping is a big component of our book cost. Because if you think about it, if it comes from either China or the US, it's quite a distance. Then there's not that large volume. So I was looking at a particular business book and talking to one of the distributors, and he said, look, Ben, this is a top-selling business book in the States, in marketing. You're looking at selling 10, 20, maybe 50,000 if it goes really well over the next 12 months.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, we're looking at an initial order of 45 and maybe selling 200.
Right. Yeah, so quite different.
The economies of scale are completely different, and that's what kills us in two aspects: the shipping, and then the shipping cost is spread out over a lower number of books.
Yeah. Okay.
So that is the difficulty. And that's why sites like Amazon work so much. Well, their prices can be so much more effective.
But you still end up shipping at the end of the day that book down to New Zealand, though, the one single book that you might buy.
Yeah. But we've got to think about the cost source in terms of what does Amazon pay. So Amazon doesn't, for let's say it's by 3 million books a month. For the 3 million books a month, it doesn't have to ship them across the Pacific.
Sure.
And it's selling them to 300 million people. Like, we've got both things working against us.
Yeah. It's our tyranny of distance once again.
Which is the frustration, which is why people should be pushing into ebooks.
Into ebooks, exactly. Now,
because you get access to every book in the world, and we can download as fast as anyone else can.
Now, here's another fail for Whitcoulls. They've got their ebook platform, Kobo. What is it? Kobo, or something like that. Kobo. That's
which is tied to Borders in the States as well.
No, I don't have one, but I've been told that the books aren't that much cheaper on that ebook platform, and you do expect, for an ebook versus a physical copy to definitely be cheaper.
I can't comment too much. I've had a look at a few books on their store.
Well, what's the Amazon comparison?
So basically, Amazon usually sits at about a flat price of $9.99.
Yeah.
If a book's on special, it's usually $3 or $6.
Right.
And then if it's like a rare book or a technical book, it might be $16, $18.
Okay.
So we've kind of got a range of 3 to 18 based on special, 8 to 10 for hot sellers, and then the long tail about 18. If you look at the print editions, they're about double. So print editions are probably maybe 14 to 18 US.
Yeah.
So you're saving about 30-40%. But if you look at the long tail books, they can be 3 or 4 times. So they could be $60 to $80, and you only have to pay under $20.
I guess there's always this feeling that New Zealand consumers are always getting screwed. You know?
Yeah.
That there's some rort in the system there somewhere where they're trying to make money. And obviously it hasn't been working for Whitcoulls. Well, it hasn't been working for their owners.
Yeah, so this is something I wanted to talk about. Like, if we look at the market, and let's say it hasn't drastically changed in terms of what their existing sales are, like they've been able to cope for the last 5-10 years, and if book sales aren't drastically down, I'm assuming profitability on those book sales is down, what could be causing it? And the thing is, Whitcoulls was bought out by an equity fund a few years ago.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing that happened with Yellow Pages, and that's why they've had to discount so much of their value. What happens is, when an equity fund buys a company, generally there's a management fee which you have to pay, and then they have to service the loan that they took to buy the business. Suddenly you have a business like Whitcoulls, which is probably doing reasonably well for a bookstore, and then it's got this added pressure of having to pay these high loans and pay them back quickly, and then they also have to pay these management fees to their new owners, and so it puts a strain on the business model.
Yeah, there's media companies in the same.
So it's a common thing that happens. It happened to Yellow Pages, the same kind of thing. The recession hit, and these new owners, they weren't quite prepared for a downturn, so they have to restructure the debt they've taken, and then they have to restructure the business. So I actually think Whitcoulls is probably more a victim of that happening than actual book sales.
Yeah.
Like, clearly they do need to focus on online and e-books, but that's still an emerging market worldwide. All bookstores worldwide have to figure that out.
Yeah.
So they're not alone there. I just think it's a victim of that. Maybe they're servicing way too much debt, and I'm sure we'll find out over the next kind of few months. And it just puts so much strain on a business, and it changes the focus. Suddenly you're paying a fixed management fee to your new owners,
and particularly when that equity business has, that's all they are. They have no actual interest in the day-to-day business.
Often that's the case.
The product.
Yeah,
they don't really care. As long as whatever it is, it just makes money.
Yeah. So, like, if we look at the structure, Whitcoulls is owned by Pacific Equity Funds, which is one of these equity funds. So their objective is to use the source of money they've got and reach particular return on investments. So they'll be told, look, we want, let's say, 14 to 18%. To achieve that, we know you've got to invest in these kind of businesses. So their aim is to use the capital they've got to return that money, and they'll look out into the market for businesses they think can do that. But if you go a step back, they're owned by an insurance company, and it's the name will lose me, but it's a British or UK insurance company. And so what they're doing is they're wanting to make sure they keep paying their insurance claims on this big pool of money. You've
got too many people in the chain wanting to make money out of those few businesses at the end of the day.
Yeah, so that's the difficulty. Like, if you look at a business like Whitcoulls, who is passionate about it and leading the company
Yeah.
And being a visionary and taking it places and trying new things.
Yeah. There's no one. There's no one there. Because right at the top, it's empty. It's hollow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're looking for a return. They're not looking to help Kiwis kindle their discovery of books.
Yeah. They could be in waste management, or they could be in books. It doesn't matter. Whatever.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So it's interesting how you can look at it and you go, right, this is the cause. But if you dig a little deeper, there are multiple causes.
Interesting. Well, Ben, thanks very much for that. Bwaggy.com, BWAGY, and also on Twitter as well. We'll see you next week.